Hello everyone and welcome to the Gunpla Network. I'm the Spicer and today's unboxing of 2016's high-grade Cosmic Era Strike Freedom Gundam comes to you courtesy of those fine folks over at Canadian Gundam. Canadian Gundam is your one-stop shop for all things Gunpla and plamo here in North America. With a vast catalog that's restocked regularly, a private warehouse option, and flat rate shipping to the US and Canada, they've got you covered for any situation. When you're checking out that vast catalog and placing your next order, don't forget to use the promo code Gunpla Network to save yourself 10% off. So if you've watched the last few reviews I've done, you will know that this is kind of a themed month for me. With the high-grade Cosmic Era L Strike, the high-grade Cosmic Era Freedom, and now the Strike Freedom, I've kind of been tasked with building these and figuring out which one of Kira's mobile suits is maybe best. Now, from the last two, you'll know that I spoke very highly of the Ale Strike, so we'll see if this and the Freedom in this can really stand up to it. Now, I have built the Master Grade Strike Freedom that's a little bit older than this, and generally I understand the concepts of how some of these things will work, and I know there's some gimmicks that aren't going to transfer from that to this, which will be maybe for the better, maybe for the worst, we'll see. But one thing that does have me a little interested, to say the least, are the golden parts for the inner frame. For the Master Grade, I painted all of those, and we'll see how cheesy this gold looks. But once we get off of the front of the box and take a look at the side, we are treated to the front and back shot. Everything's looking very clean here. Once again, another probably very back-heavy kit like the Freedom, so we'll see kind of how this actually stands, but it looks like it's not too worse for wear. You get to see some of the action poses, and as I said, this is probably going to really need a stand like the Freedom. The wings are big, they unfold, they look very imposing when you do that, so definitely something you're going to want to do most likely. And you get a couple of decent poses. You get a long rifle pose, you have kind of the two short rifles, then the beam saber and beam shield there. You get to take a look at the gimmicks with the hands, the wings, the rail guns, and then your kind of somewhat less traditional sword, shield, and beam rifle configuration there, and the little beam cannon, all of which in these pictures are most likely painted a much better shade of gold. On the other side, we have all the warnings and the illustration, once again by Morishita Naochika. Once again, sorry if I butchered that. And you get to see the Strike Freedom just kind of vibing out in space, shooting its lasers, doing its thing. No other mobile suits in this illustration, but you do get some lore and some technical specs on the ZGMFX-20A Strike Freedom. Once we take a look at the plastic inside the box, we're treated to the A-plate here, which is going to be all the white pieces, so the shoulders, the legs, the arms, all the armor. You get A2, which is the complementary plate to that as well, so all the other sides of what we saw on A1. Then we are treated to B1, which is kind of the same navy color that the Freedom was in. This actually kind of looks a little more purple, but it's a very similar shade, so it's probably just the lighting in this shot. You get the complementary plate in B2 as well for the rest of the wings and the other side of the feet and all that fun stuff. Then you get the C plate here, which is multicolored with red, gray, yellow, and the clear plastic beam effect part for the shield and the eyes. The gray is a little grayer than what we saw on the Freedom, being less of a blue-hued or lavender gray, instead of just more of a regular flat gray. Moving on to D1, we have the blue pieces for the wings and the rest of the body, kind of the lower portion of the torso and some of the thruster vents there. You have D2, which is the rest of the wings and the feet. Then you get the infamous E1 gold plate, and this actually doesn't look terrible. It is a little cheesy looking, but I definitely have seen a lot worse, and I technically think, if I'm remembering correctly, the high-grade Minamatsu Custom Astray probably was worse in terms of this gold. It's still very similar, but this one looks a little bit brighter. Guess I'll see once it's all built if it is going to stand up to that. E2 is a complementary plate once again, being the other side of everything that E1 is. You get your traditional beam sabers, which, once again, nothing to write home about here. Pretty standard beam sabers, so you know what you're getting. You get the PC joints that are all molded in the same gold, which is actually quite nice. This is actually, I think, a little less shiny, but it's going to blend in well enough for the most part. You're probably not going to notice. And then you have the manual. The manual's looking pretty good. Front shot looking pretty solid there. And then we have everything up there. And I definitely just realized I forgot to look at the sticker sheet, which does have some things. I'll try to put a picture in here. But overall, I think this, kind of like the Freedom, is largely going to most likely be made up of fairly color-accurate plastic. I didn't really see anything in there that was too concerning, and the gold actually doesn't look as cheesy as I think, but it could still end up, like once it's built, not contrasting as well with the plastics. We'll see. For 2016, I think Bandai's probably figured out at least a little bit of how to do some of this gold in a slightly better way, especially for something like this where it's kind of a selling point. It's definitely not plated or anything, but it is like, hey, the inner frame is totally different. This is the cool Strike, Freedom, whatever. But overall, I'm actually quite excited. I've never built a 1144 Strike Freedom, so I have really no idea what I'm going into. Like I said, I've built the Master Grade, which is older than this, and of course a Master Grade, but I generally at least kind of know how some of this is probably going to work proportionally, and generally what some of the articulation's going to be. But I mean, that comes with just building high grades in general. A lot of it's a lot of overlapping stuff. But I am interested to see how the wings work and see if they're too back heavy. But that's really the only concern I have as far as the base build. It would be interesting to see if the side skirt sliding gimmick from the Master Grade makes it in here, but I really doubt it does, because that seems kind of complex for a high grade, but it would be kind of neat. Once again, kind of doubtful, but it is be kind of neat anyway to see. But outside of that, I'm pretty excited to finish this up and see. I still speak very highly of the Ale Strike. The Freedoms, you know, you'll find out in the review. And then this will be an interesting variation of those two, and we'll see if the proportions hold through onto this. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, warnings you want to give me, put them in the comments down below, and I will do my best to answer any questions and respond to anything that needs a response, I suppose. I've been the Spicer here for the Gunpla Network. Please do your best to stay safe and keep on building.